Daivd Stützel from Germany, and this is my second video trying to tell a little bit about this Vibraband, one of my favorite instruments invented by Daivd, and how to play it. The first one was more about how to get or make yourself one. And the problem here is that most of this instrument, everyone who has tried to play something like this may have figured that out already, is invisible. This thing is of course visible, but how and why this actually plays and sounds like it sounds when Stan plays it, it's not much to do, or of course it needs this visible thing, but there's a lot more to it. Actually, this is one of my favorite topics, invisible instruments, and I would say most instruments are in great parts invisible, and what happens inside a player and in the connection of a player and an instrument, and in some things that actually only come to existence when you start playing physically, like you're building a part of the instrument only then. So I'll make a separate video about that, maybe about the invisible instrument Vibraband, but for now let me tell you that I'm trying to put things in words here that are kind of hard to tell because they are invisible. You may start seeing some of them because you may start noticing things that you've not before when you watch Daivd playing on YouTube afterwards. And some will stay invisible, but you may get the concept and will figure out something to play maybe. So first thing maybe, which is kind of easy to see, Stan never plays somewhere on the thing, he always plays on one end of a, and this is important because he's not just playing on this end, but the whole thing is vibrating, which is already the second important thing. And so this part where he plays on one end of the vibrating thing, it's like this end was the mouthpiece, and this also vibrates, and that's why he can change pitches here. That's already hundreds of secrets, because that means that the vibration has to be able to travel between these parts, so it cannot be vibrating only between the lips, but the vibration has somehow to reach kind of undisturbed from here to there and also back, otherwise this would not be able to change my note here where I produce it. So that's already one of the little things why this sounds like a real instrument that is often much bigger and has, for example, in case of wind instruments, usually some kind of pipe with a vibrating air column inside, and in one way this acts like the air column in this part here to the side. So that also creates this thing that is like a overtone series on a trumpet. You know, you have these valves, but even without those there are different notes, like overtone series. I can also sing them like they are kind of everywhere in music, and you get something similar here, like only it changes every time you take it in your hand, but you can try and you'll at least notice that it jumps. It doesn't go like, but it jumps like yodeling from one fixed step to another and those are kind of resonance points where it sticks to, and there's nothing in between. And as long as I don't change the tension or the way I hold it, the distance I hold it, they also stay the same, these notes. So they are kind of a overtone series, At first I thought they are only something similar, but actually there's almost always, if you get it sounding clear enough, there's a kind of a real part of the real normal overtone series that follows number things, and usually has to do with an air column or a string being able to vibrate as a whole, or as 2/2, or 3/3, or 4/4, or 5/5, and those, like 2/2 vibrate double speed, 3/3 vibrate triple speed, and so those frequencies have racial simple numbers, and that's where our intervals also come from. And you actually get something like that from this rubber band. People who know will recognize that as a part, this major chord, as a part of the overtone series. It's actually it's 4, 5, 6 of the numbers of the notes in the series, and then I can add something like the valves on the trumpet, and Stan usually uses 2 of them, 2 fingers. I usually use 1 finger, but I change where I point. Like if I find this chord again, I just use 1 finger, but one time I make it a whole step, and the next time I make it a half step. So I change the point where I touch this. The more important thing about that is to understand that there are these steps, and that there are different notes on one Vibraband without changing this, without touching here, and also without changing the tension, because most people believe it's like something you just make more tension and it goes up like vocal cords, but that's not how Stan is playing it. It could work like that if only the part between the lips would vibrate, and this part was just excess and wouldn't do anything, and I would pull out, and so the length of the vibrating part would stay the same and the tension would change. But this is actually, if I do this, which Stan sometimes does, because it's still easier to reach higher notes if you tension more, but that's a kind of very complex thing what happens when you do this, because rubber stretches quite easy, and so it gets a little more tension, which would make it higher, but it also gets much longer, which would make it lower. So the kind of fundamental of this doesn't really change so much actually. It's more that you can reach higher notes easier from this kind of series that is always there, and you usually don't get all the notes from the series, because some are kind of spoiled by the way you play here, and some are not reachable by how much tension there is and how thick this material is and so on. So this gets kind of complex, but you don't need to understand all that, but that it's not, you can't play a melody by making more tension. I still actually jumped in this overtone series, and this didn't really help. Even also some people do this vibrato, that does work a little, but Stan plays a different one, like it's more lips and chin, other parts. So now I've got a bit lost. There's actually much more to say about this whole thing, but once you know that it's there, maybe I'll try to just mention a few more of these kind of points, and maybe make a better video about one or another of them later, because there are many more of these secrets or things that I have found. So now I'll stop and I'll make another video.